You are sitting in a waiting room. Your phone is at 1%. There's nothing to look at but a beige wall. Your mind starts to itch. You feel it in your chest, a kind of restless pressure. You call this boredom, but the real answer is far stranger. Boredom is not a flaw in your brain. It is one of the oldest survival tools your species ever built. Think about that for a second. An emotion, built for survival, just like fear, just like hunger. Boredom evolved for a reason, and that reason still runs your life today, even when you are staring at a beige wall instead of a lion. Your ancestors did not have phones. They did not have television or books or endless scrolling feeds. What they had was time, long stretches of it, hours spent walking, watching, waiting for prey, waiting for weather to change, waiting for danger to pass. And in all that empty time, their brains needed something to do, something to push them forward. That something was boredom. Here's the strange part. Boredom is not the opposite of motivation. Boredom is a motivation in disguise. Psychologist John Eastwood at York University has spent years studying what boredom actually is, at a neurological level. His research describes boredom as the uncomfortable feeling of wanting to be engaged in a satisfying activity, but being unable to do so. Notice the wording, wanting, unable. Boredom is not emptiness. It is a signal, a push. Your brain telling you quite literally that you are wasting your one chance at being alive. Why would evolution build something so uncomfortable on purpose? Because comfort was never the goal. Survival was. Imagine an early human sitting still for too long. No food gathered, no shelter built, no threats scouted. Stillness for your ancestors was dangerous. A predator could be closing in. A storm could be forming. Stillness meant vulnerability. So the brain developed a built-in alarm for wasted time. An alarm that felt bad on purpose, so you would do something about it. That alarm is still wired into you right now. Consider what happens in your brain during a boring moment. Neuroscientist James Dankert has shown that boredom activates regions tied to the brain's attention and reward circuits, including the same networks that light up during frustration and craving. Your brain does not experience boredom passively. It experiences it as a kind of hunger. A hunger for meaning. A hunger for stimulation. A hunger that, like actual hunger, exists to move you towards something better. This changes everything about how you should think about being bored. You have probably been told boredom is a problem to eliminate. Something to fill with a screen, a snack, a scroll. But what if boredom is not a hole to fill? What if it is a compass? Here is where the story gets even stranger. In 2014, researchers Timothy Wilson and Aaron Westgate ran an experiment that became famous almost overnight. They placed people alone in an empty room for 15 minutes with absolutely nothing to do. No phone, no book, just their own thoughts. The only other option available to them was a device that delivered a mild electric shock. Something most participants had already said they would pay money to avoid. A striking number of people chose to shock themselves, just to escape the discomfort of sitting with nothing. Read that again. People chose pain over stillness. That tells you something important about the sheer force of boredom's grip on the human mind. It is not a minor annoyance. It is one of the most powerful discomforts you can feel, powerful enough to make people choose physical pain instead. Your ancestors were built the exact same way, because that same intensity is what dragged them out of caves, across rivers, and into unfamiliar territory in search of something better. Boredom, in other words, is the reason your species left Africa, the reason you learned to farm instead of only gather, the reason you built tools, art, language, cities. Every single one of those leaps forward begin with a mind that could not tolerate sitting still with nothing to do. You inherited that same restless engine. It is still running inside you right now, whether you are aware of it or not. Think about your own life for a moment. What have you built, learned, or discovered specifically because you were bored? A hobby picked up on a slow weekend. A late night idea that turned into something real. A conversation that only happened because you had nothing better to do. Boredom quietly has been steering you your entire life. But here's the twist your modern world has introduced. For nearly all of human history, boredom had nowhere to go but forward. There was no other option. You either endured the discomfort and searched for something meaningful, or you sat with the feeling until it pushed you into action. Now boredom has an escape hatch. Your phone. The instant that itch appears, you can silence it in less than a second. A notification. A short video. An infinite feed built specifically to intercept the exact signal your ancestors used to find food, meaning, and connection. This is the modern mirror of an ancient story. The alarm still fires, but instead of pushing you toward a discovery, it gets absorbed by a screen before it can build any momentum at all. Danikert's research suggests something troubling about this pattern. When boredom is constantly interrupted rather than followed through, people report feeling less satisfied, not more. The urge fires, gets muted, and returns minutes later, hungrier than before. Your ancient alarm system were built for a slower world, one where boredom had time to work. So what happens if you let it? Some of the most interesting research on creativity supports exactly this idea. Studies from psychologist Sandy Mann at the University of Central Lancashire found that people who completed a boring task right before a creative one generated more original ideas than people who skipped the boring task entirely. Boredom, it turns out, is not the enemy of creativity. It is often the doorway into it. That beige waiting room wall was never a problem to solve with your phone. It was an invitation. Your ancestors did not have the luxury of scrolling past their own restlessness. They had to sit inside it until it moved them somewhere, into a new valley, a new tool, a new idea about the world. The very discomfort you rushed to erase every single day was, for most of human history, the engine of everything your species ever became. So the next time that itch creeps in, the next time your mind goes quiet and uncomfortable and starts pulling at you for something more, pause before you reach for the screen. That feeling is not empty. It is ancient. It has been pulling humans toward a discovery since long before you were born. You're sitting in a waiting room. Your phone is at 1%. There's nothing to look at but a beige wall. And for the first time, you let the itch stay. Because the real answer was never to escape it. It was to follow it somewhere new.